Thoughts from Reggie. All right, 30 seconds. Okay, looks like everyone is here. Let me just check. Yeah. Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order right at 1:30. We'll recognize that we're conducting our business today on the territories of the Hupetchis First Nations primarily, although we are coming to you live from all over New Channels and sometimes even Coast Salish territory. With that, this meeting is being conducted online through Zoom, but we are recording and broadcasting this over YouTube. You can access that on the YouTube channel for the Alberta and Clayoquot Regional District or through our website at acrd.bc.ca. Participation from the public through question period and whatnot is done primarily through either pre-registering to attend this meeting on Zoom as an attendee rather than as a panelist, or they can, anyone who has missed that window can watch online through YouTube. And in any event, we're not watching the comments on YouTube nor on Zoom. We take public comment and responses and questions for the end of the meeting through an email address, which is responses@acrd.bc.ca. Okay, so I'm going to check with Wendy here. Do we have any items to add to the agenda or to add to the materials?
Hi, Mr. Chair. I'm not aware of any late items for consideration for the meeting this afternoon.
Okay, great. All righty, so that brings us to the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to do that, please? Thank you, Director McNabb and Director Roberts. Any comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to the adoption of minutes. There's only one here. That's the Board of Directors meeting minutes for July 28th, 2021. Thank you, Director Roberts. Seconded by Dr. Beckett. Any comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so that brings us to petitions, delegations, and presentations. We have normally a 10-minute maximum for delegations and presentations. If we ever get that close, I'll just interrupt you and let you know that unless you're pretty close to the end, then I'll just let you keep going. I'll just ask the board whether or not we wanted to give you more time if it didn't seem like you were going to go over. That doesn't count questions and answers. And if you're giving a presentation and you see me hold up 2 fingers or 1, that's not me interrupting you. I'll just talk. That's me letting you know how many minutes you have left or thereabouts. With that in mind, though, at first we have a presentation for Brenda Sauvé, who's been with us for 10 years. And I'm wondering who's going to be giving that presentation. All right, Jenny, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my pleasure to be recognizing Brenda for 10 years of service with the Alberta Regional District. I've had the pleasure of working with Brenda for the last 3 years in the Community Services Department, but Brenda has also worked in finance and supported in administration before she came to us from the Beaver Creek Improvement District. Brenda has been just fantastic to work with. She's incredibly productive, is a team player, and in the last year and COVID has just been incredible and stepped up to help us in every way possible. I don't think our solid waste service would even exist right now without her. So I just want to extend my gratitude and congratulations to her for everything that she does, and looking forward to continuing to work with you, maybe for another 10 years. Who knows? So thank you very much, Brenda.
Yeah, on behalf of the board, thank you very much, Brenda. Please, if you have anything to say, go ahead.
Oh, thank you for those kind words, Jenny. It's really appreciated. And yeah, it's just been a pleasure. And hopefully I will continue with the ACRD for the next 10 years for sure. Thank you. Have a great meeting.
We'll hold you to that. Thank you. Okay, so next up we have Mr. Ken Saunders, president of the Alberni Golf Club. So welcome, Ken, and yeah, please go ahead.
Great, thanks very much. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to you about the activities at the golf club over the past year. It's been an interesting year. When I talked to you last year, we were just getting involved with COVID, and had been closed for a while. We opened and had a lot of challenges to meet. And so we've been operating under a lot of new protocols for the last year. Last year worked out well at the end, in the sense that I guess because we were the only game in town, everybody was trying to play golf. And so we got some nice busyness for a while. And our business, we hoped, would grow in the coming year. And it has. This year, I think it's more of the same, in that a lot of people got interested in golf, and partly because they can't do anything else, maybe a lot of people have continued to play golf. So that's been good. We particularly have seen a lot of growth from younger people, which and younger, not like the kids. We've always had an active junior program, and we're able to get that going. But we've got a lot of intermediate, what we call intermediate adults, sort of the 35 to 50 range. And that's been very good. It's nice to see these new, young, excited people out at the course. So that's all been good. And we've had increased busyness from new members this year and new green fee players. That's the good news. I guess the bad news is that we've still got a lot of the restrictions because of the COVID pandemic. We are operating in partial capacities. We still pretty much have not had any functions to speak of, the major tournaments and so on. We've had to cancel all of that. So we've had a few smaller things that have generated a lot of interest, but again, it's affected revenues a lot. So what we've gained on one hand, we've lost on the other, but we're still moving along and keeping afloat. I guess the biggest thing for us in the coming year is the uncertainty of everything. We have a real problem in that we're kind of like a small family business, really. We've got a small number of grounds crew employees, a small number of staff in the restaurant and bar. If any of them were to get sick, it would affect our operation dramatically because of the close contact of everybody. We would end up being closed. Be a question for how long. So we're as always, being very judicious with our spending, with anything that we buy and so on, because while we're excited on the one hand that we're busy, on the other hand, we're wondering, how long we're going to be in business and open. So we've got extra expenses because of the sanitization, sterilization that we have to do, the keeping equipment clean. And of course, this year we got another round of minimum wage increases, which is a pretty big thing for us. There's no way for us to just turn around and get that money back. We have to find a way to rebudget and take care of that. And unfortunately, even though only a certain number of employees are affected by that, there is a domino effect. All the other employees, they see people coming in on their first day and getting the new minimum wage, and then that they feel that, relatively speaking, they should have more. So it's an ongoing struggle, but again, we're managing, and I would say we're having a successful year, and barring anybody getting really ill really soon, we should come out of the summer fine. But I can't stress how important the tax exemption is to us. To us, that's a major amount of money that we don't really have a place where we can just go out and say, well, if we have to pay it, we'll get it from here, because there is no here or there. So I would like to thank the board for the support that we've received in the past, and hope we will. You'll see the need for the exemption in the future and this year, and it would be devastating to lose that support. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Ken. Are there any comments or questions? Oh, Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. I see the golf course is a wonderful community asset, and it's been probably a saving grace for many Alberni Valley people that got to go out and use the facility. COVID has really taken its toll on a lot of people. So thank you, and I do support this, and we have for many, many years, and just want to say keep up the good work. I know it's a struggle for so many. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny, for your kind comments. And yes, you know, it was interesting that while we were closed last year, how many people came forward to express their disappointment that we were closed, because it was really affecting them mentally. And the fact that we were able to get open again was a real mental boost for a lot of people, because they were so tied down. And I think that's one of the things giving us our busyness this year. It is a chance for them to get out and do something, be outdoors in you know, a relatively safe environment, and enjoy themselves. And we appreciate that they're coming out, and we appreciate the support that you're showing here. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Okay, hearing none. On behalf of the board, Ken, I'd like to thank you for coming to make your presentation. And, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to the next item in presentations, and that is Hannah Ramsey and Marlena Locke, or Marlena, from the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol regarding the year's report. So I don't know which one of you is going to speak first, so please take it away.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak to you today on behalf of the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol. My name is Hannah Ramsey. I am the lead hand of this summer. Marlena is on the other line. Marlena wants to say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marlena. I hope you can see my screen okay here. Just let me know if you can't. Good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Awesome. We won't take too much of your time here. We just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what we've been doing this past season at the launch, as well as on the lake. And we want to talk a little bit about our new addition to the program, which would be our social media and school outreach program.
So this year at the launch, there has been a little bit less contact with COVID happening. So we did introduce, yes, the school program and such. But our primary goal is to let the community know about boating safety and let the public use the boat launch. And we've also made a few platforms for social media this year, just to inform the public that can't come out to the boat launch due to COVID of the procedures there. We're also trained by Transport Canada at the beginning of the summer to educate boaters on proper registration and licensing. We also observe onshore activities and report anything that needs to be recorded. We also do regular water testing with our Zodiac boat, and we do regular monitoring on our social media platforms as well.
So yeah, our primary role is mainly at the boat launch at the Sprout Lake Provincial Park. What we do there is we run a life jacket program for those that come without a life jacket simply because they forgot or they have the wrong size. We have various sizes there that we hand out, and that's been super helpful this year and in the past. We also are kind of trained in case there is an emergency. We have our battery booster, a first aid kit, and if absolutely necessary, we are able to tow boats with our boat as well. Out at the launch, we actually have a shed there that we kind of call our home for the summer. In there, we carry Fox 40s to hand out and other safety essentials like water, fire extinguishers, and spill pads. Yeah, so also around our shed, we have a couple maps up, and we carry several different informational brochures that we hand out, which is super helpful for those that are new to the lake or coming from out of town to visit and have any questions. And something new this summer, which was really exciting for us, is we put up a few QR codes around the launch that you can also access the same information, but on your phone. Yeah.
And expanding on the social media program, we implemented the social media program in June this year and gained over 435 followers. So that's just on that's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and even on Facebook, we've reached over 9,000 people alone. Our social media program has given us an opportunity to educate people on boating safety, as well as give them the opportunity to distance because of COVID-19. We also share a few awesome hotspots around the lake and around the Alberni Valley if anyone is interested in that as well.
So like I mentioned earlier, in addition to the social media program, this year we did a school outreach program, which we did not do the previous season. So what that looked like was in June, we went to various different elementary schools in the valley. We visited over 9 classes over, I think, 2 days. And it was really fun for us and the kids. We got to share a little bit about boating safety and marine safety. And we did this in a fun way by playing games and asking questions. It was very interactive, and we received really good feedback from the teachers. So I'm hoping that's something we can carry on into the next couple seasons.
With our Zodiac boat this year, we put it in at the end of June after we did the school outreach program. And it's a very big component of our job. That's how we do water testing. That's how we clean up the beaches around the lake, such as First Point, Second Point, and where the houseboats go in Two Rivers area. It can get quite dirty over there. We also assist boats if they ever need a tow. We also carry a battery jumper on the boat too. So we've had a few of those this year. And we're also just a good presence along the lake. We've had a few people come and wave us by and thank you for our services, which is super encouraging as well.
Yeah, so as Hannah mentioned, every year we receive a lot of feedback. This year we received a lot of really good positive feedback, considering the last season in 2020, because of COVID, we weren't able to be there. So we had a lot of happy faces when we were back this year. Yeah, we also had quite a few people return back to the launch after they had already launched to come back and just say thank you for our assistance and our presence on the lake, which is really rewarding for us. Along with the positive feedback, there was a little bit of negative feedback that I said that we would maybe bring forward on behalf of those who had complained. One of the major concerns from the public this year was the ramp and the dock itself, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, but yeah, so there's a little bit of concern about the dock itself. It's quite narrow and short, which really becomes an issue in the end of July and August when the water is low. It's hard for boats to come in and drop people off just because it's so shallow. And for us, it's also hard to hang on to the boats because we're looking at only 2 or 3 feet of water at the end of the dock there. Something that we ran into this year, which was new for me personally, was we had quite a few people come out in their wheelchairs, and because the dock was so narrow, they weren't able to use it, which was something new this summer that we had to tackle. And unfortunately, they weren't able to use the launch and had to return home. Yeah, and then the launch itself, the ramp, I think just because it's weathered and a little bit worn out, it's a little bit uneven and there's quite a few cracks. And as a result, many people just prefer to use one side of launch over the other, which isn't a huge deal, but it does slow down the traffic quite a bit. Yeah, and another complaint which has been a returning complaint over the years is the parking lot itself. There's not a ton of room for boats and trailers, which means that they have to go park on the road or in a different parking lot, which is fine. But then it does become a little bit of a hazard for people coming into the park and leaving just because they're on the road there. And again, we ran into I think a couple incidents where people came in their wheelchairs, and just because there was limited parking, there's no wheelchair accessible, or I guess designated areas, which was something that came up a couple times.
And we want to, again, really appreciate your time, and we appreciate you just listening to us and the concerns of the public. And we, if you have any concerns or questions, then yeah, this would be the time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now,
Yeah.
do we have any comments or questions? Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you to the Marine Patrol. You did a wonderful job this year, being our representatives to our face to the community. I know that it seemed a lot less activity on the lake that was the pirate boat or people open alcohol or whatever that I did. So I didn't see a lot of that this year. And I think that the Marine Patrol deserves recognition for being that face on the lake. I didn't hear any complaints about the Marine Patrol this year, which is wonderful. Just people saying that how much they appreciated having you out on the lake. And I did hear of one incident also where someone was missing and you were called in to try and locate that person. So thank you. I just want to make sure that the board recognizes that you are there in a safety manner for the community. And mostly it's not the residents of Sprout Lake that benefit from having the Marine Patrol, but it's the visitors. I just published a newsletter and you're on the front page. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you, Penny, too, for all your hard work this summer with just Sprout Lake in general. And also Mike, we want to give you a shout out as well. Thank you for being our boss and taking that responsibility on this year. I know it's been a little bit challenging and difficult, but you've definitely pushed us to create a better program for the future and for future employees. So we really want to thank you for that.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Thank you, everyone involved. I actually heard some praise coming my way as well. My neighbor actually used the boat launch for the first time ever, and he said it was really helpful to have you there. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, hope to see you again. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, everyone. Thank you for that. That brings us to item 6A, which is a request to halt all ongoing rezoning for development in the community known as Little Germany. I'm wondering if someone would like to maybe introduce this just for the benefit of the recording. Go ahead, Terry.
I can do that. So we just received this in the last week or so. And so planning staff have not really had a chance to really look at what they want to do with it. So at this point, we would just like the board to refer it back to staff and they'll bring a report either to the board of directors or maybe to the EA committee, depending on timing, for further discussion of some options and some discussion at that point.
Thank you. Dr. Cote?
Thank you. The residents of Little Germany have been in contact with me on a regular basis regarding the development applications that are happening in Little Germany. Would really like to have staff be able to slow down any rezoning that's coming forward so that we can actually look at how this will affect the community. One of the last applications that came in, conversation was around the water, the ability for everyone having adequate water going forward, and density in this area is probably not the best idea. Just like to also say that I was down Great Central Road on Saturday, and I was amazed at how many RVs there are that are located in Little Germany right now. There's one property that had quite a number of RVs, so I'm sure that bylaws officer is absolutely looking at that. So I'd like to make a motion, unless there's any further conversation that people would like to have. Like to move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors refer this petition to planning staff to prepare a report with recommendations for consideration by the Board of Directors.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Any further comments? Okay, no questions. Great. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, pretty straightforward. Thank you. That brings us to correspondence for information under item 7. Does anyone have anything they'd like to pull out? Okay, hearing none. There was 2 that I'd like to pull out, or at least touch on quickly. One is that we got an acknowledgement of our letter to the Prime Minister's office in regards to the discovery of children's graves at residential schools. They've promised to help accelerate that and what they've done already. And then second is that I'll be speaking on a panel at the UBCM. So I don't know exactly when it'll be, but it'll be about reconciliation alongside a couple of other folks. So yeah, I hope to see you there, or at least see your names there. With that in mind, if we could have a motion to, thank you, Director Cote. Just move to receive. Yeah.
I'd like to identify item A, the Canada Community Building Fund of BC Union of British Columbia Municipalities, the top up from the Community Works funds, and the eligibility, which now includes fire halls, fire stations, infrastructure. So that's such a wonderful opportunity now because there's so little help in grants or whatnot for fire departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cote. So we'll say that you moved it and then Director Beckett had seconded. Are there any other comments? Oh, Director Roberts, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Item G, the Habitat Conservation Trust Fund Foundation Forest Enhancement Society, British Columbia. I'd just like to recognize what's going on there, that the Roosevelt Elk Habitat Project on Vancouver Island is receiving part of a $9.3 million in funding. I know that communities around Port Alberni will be receiving some of these monies, and hopefully we still have forests standing around the area to help in this conservation project. It's extremely worthwhile and really good news for people that are interested in conservation and habitat enhancement. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for that. That actually raises a good point. I remember I attended on behalf of the ACRD, an event that was put on by hunters and whatnot last year. They had Shane Mahoney, I believe his name came in, and talked about conservation and the need for all of that. I got into a conversation with some folks from Monmouth who were there. One was Ron Frank, if anybody know that is. And we started talking about what kind of things that could be done to help support ungulates, but also specifically the elk, especially after the poaching that had occurred not too long ago. That it's had an impact on all of the nations on this side of the Barkley Sound anyway. And part of that was looking into using cultural burning practices to help create a safer environment in the same way that you would do fire. Start fires to actually help mitigate the risks in the summer season, and that's something I may bring to the table as a presentation from the folks who have done this already in places like Chilcotin, but also Australia. Apparently, there's a lot of things going on there too when it comes to fires. Yeah, it just sparked my mind. Thanks for the reminder. And yeah, are there any other comments? Dr. Shannon?
Thank you. Since this has been pulled out, as I recall, last year, the year before, I believe funding went to the Namint Valley herd for Roosevelt elk. Do we ever get updates from what they've implemented, like how things are going? I know we get notified when the funding's coming, but especially like when it's in like close to our areas, it'd be great to hear how these programs are actually going and how the herd's doing.
It would be good. The monies that were received for the space between Huit and Dididot, that's kind of covered separately, so I can find out information there to bring here. But Namint, I'm not sure because that was recipient. Maybe we just ask at first, send a letter of some sort, and then see if they can come and give a presentation. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can do that. We'll send them a letter or reach out and see if they have an update for us or if they'd like to come and present to the board.
Okay. Okay, with that in mind then, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, we've received the correspondence for information. That brings us into section 8, which is decisions and bylaws. The first of which is just establishing the signing authorities for banking purposes. This sounds like it has to do with Douglas moving on and just adding Terry's name in a different slot. Is that correct?
Yeah, just to represent the shuffling of the deck that's occurred with Douglas leaving and Trisha being the acting CFO, and just making sure we have signing authorities in place to make sure business is flowing as usual.
Okay. And this is one motion with just 3 added parts afterwards as well.
Please, yes.
Yeah. And you can just say I move the recommendation if you don't want to read it out. Go ahead, Dr. Roberts.
I move that recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Okay. Any comments? I think the only comment is I appreciate that Director Cote is on this list in the event that I'm somehow indisposed or far away from things. I think that has saved us every once in a while. Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right. That brings us into item B, the Lady Rose Marine Services Appreciation Letter. I'm wondering, Director Beckett, if you just wanted to read these out. The emotions?
I do. Just one moment, please. So the first motion is that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors send a letter of appreciation to the current owner of the Lady Rose Marine Services for providing essential services to the Alberni Inlet and Barkley Sound region for the past several years.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, everyone. I'll just say Dr. Roberts. Okay, any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, there is a second motion then that I would like to make, and that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors send a letter of support and appreciation to Devon Transportation, the intended new owner of the service, for the continuation of this essential service to the Alberni Inlet and Barkley Sound.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. And I think I cut you off at the end of the last one. Did you have a comment?
I wanted to acknowledge ACRD staff and a number of the directors who were very supportive and instrumental in helping us move a stakeholders meeting forward last week, and although a decision had already been made with respect to the new purchaser, the fact that staff and my colleagues offered their support and coordinated that meeting was very appreciative to Banfield, and I'm sure NACLA as well, sir.
Oh, definitely. That was very crackerjack. Dr. Roberts, did you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to echo Director Beckett's comments. As I participated in that, and I have a long history of relationship with Lady Rose, including the UCHUC, and back in the late 60s, folks. At any rate, I was extremely dismayed to hear about Lady Rose Marine Services going down. And then on the other hand, I was quite elated when the current operator said that they had been purchased, and clearly amazing. I'd like to see that service re-extended again, hopefully in the future to other areas, including Sea Shark Lodge, which is basically in Sea Shark Channel out of my area, and also hopefully again into Ucluelet if they can reach agreement on that. But thank you, Director Beckett, for hosting that. It was tremendous news for sure for everybody. Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, it's great news to see that this service is back. Little known fact, I used to work on the Lady Rose first season. And so I could see the benefit of the community that lives out there, that the Lady Rose brought mail and supplies and just such essential service. So very happy to see it back in service. Thanks.
Great. Okay. And again, any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Oh, all opposed. Motion carried. Sorry, Dr. Cole, I didn't see you there. Did you want to say something? No? Okay. Okay, that brings us to dispersed camping. The dispersed camping task force. Next steps. Did you want to?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this is a file that former CAO Mr. Holmes really kind of was leading. So we're just trying to pick it up. His message to me was that there seemed to be a ton of interest last spring, and that the interest with the consultant this summer kind of waned, but that his and the consultant's belief was that it's not from a lack of interest, but more just that the West Coast is dealing with it on the ground right now, and all the stakeholders that have been participating in this task force are just busy dealing with the day-to-day issues. So we had approved as part of the financial plan $10,000, and that's what this consultant's been working within, but they had presented a more robust and development of a long-term strategy that will cost about $25,000. So just wanted to touch base with the directors before I reach out to the other regional stakeholders to see if there's any financial contribution that they're willing or able to make. And if we want to proceed with something a little bit bigger. The other reminder is we don't actually have a service for this. So if we want to go too far with it, we're going to have to look at establishing a service, like if we want to do bylaw enforcement of it or something. But there are still some things that we can do here in the next little bit and over the winter to kind of see if we can help with this, coordinate this issue, or find what our role as the regional district may be. And that's it.
Okay. So I have Dr. Cote, Director McNabb, and then Director Cole.
Thank you. Through the chair to the board, I think that this is not simply a West Coast issue. Sprout Lake has dispersed camping issues as well. And I'm sure that Banfield would also see this, and Long Beach, so as well as Long Beach. So I think that it needs to include all of the regional district.
Okay, thank you for that. Next up, Director McNabb.
So, I mean, I think we really need to reach out to the other communities of Vancouver Island. I mean, I've noticed over the last 2 weeks, my travels on the island, that there is a very, very similar problem in Qualicum Beach, and that there is a absolutely identical problem by Buckley Bay. There's a pullout near Buckley Bay that after dark is bumper to bumper camping. And so I'm sure that other regional districts have the same situation that we do. And there may be some ability to collaborate and participate with a larger group and see if we can't come up with some kind of long-term solution for this. Because otherwise we're just pushing them from one area to another area and it's not solved.
Yeah. I think that's really a good idea, Dr. McNabb. I had a conversation with Karen Hogan, the superintendent of the federal park, and she was saying that some of the approaches that they've been taking have been running into some of the same problems or challenges that the contractor has been running into, just that people are not engaging. Either they're too busy or there's too much on their plate. And this is something that I think we need some concentrated effort put into it. But if we spread it out so that it's more of an island issue, because I'd imagine that this is something that is affecting Campbell River and Courtenay Comox just as much too. That big rest stop by the ferry up north is also one that gets packed as well. So with that, I saw someone else's hand go up and I missed them, but I think I have Dr. Cole next.
I'm not going to pretend to know what the right solution is, but I do agree with that. Moving problems around in certain circumstances by making it more difficult to be in one location causes a relocation. I think the one thing I would like to obviously see, I think a collective approach is great. I think more concentrated local approaches are great. I think it's going to take all of the above, and not just in the municipalities or the regional districts or the provincial level. It's a massive problem, and it's not just on the West Coast. The one thing that I totally agree with all that, but the one thing on the West Coast that is a little bit different than a lot of these other places that you're seeing the problem is that when they're displaced, they have a left and a right and maybe a north and a south to go to, where on the West Coast, we're at the end of the road. So the displacement just becomes concentrated within still, not that displacing is the answer, but I think we might feel it a little more here because people just aren't passing through. People are coming here and they're staying, and then when they're displaced, anyways. Yeah. It's the one thing that's a little bit different, but I am in full support of any support efforts, dollars, municipal, regional, whatever we can do to come up with a better way of doing things.
Okay, next up I have Dr. Roberts, then Cote again, then Dr. Steer. Did I miss anyone? Okay, please go ahead, Dr. Roberts.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I concur with the comments by Director Cote and Director Cole. The issue that we're finding out there, as Director Cole mentioned, is where do they go if they've been moved? Well, I understand now that the Tolokwiyat First Nation are going to be putting up a gate on their property. They're not doing it just now because there's some bridge work going on by one of the contractors, but I see that as something that for the majority of the people that live out there, that if there's an opportunity to access the gates, that would be great. But having sat in that line at the Kennedy Hill and watching vehicles drive by for an hour plus time heading out that way, and then leaving the Barkley Sound area and Salmon Beach and seeing people camped along the way, not only on provincial land, but also on First Nation land. It's disheartening. It's not so much that they camp there, but it's the mess that we've always talked about. Further, my understanding from the Whistler Center for Sustainability, their comments was where that they wanted to hold another meeting for the Dispersed Camping Task Force. So I'm in favor of, as everybody else has mentioned, to look at where we can get support from the other communities all over the island for sure. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you for that.
Okay. That brings us to Director Cote and then Director Steer. Was there anyone else?
Thank you. I have participated in a couple of the working group that was organized in the past. And there is a lot of regional participants, like Ministry of Transportation, that says, they have issues in all areas. It's not just ours. And I think those are our main supports going forward, as far as helping out to see what other communities are doing. So there is help out there, and members of that working group that can provide some organizational help. And it's hard to know what the solution is going to be at this point. The working group wasn't that meetings that weren't that well attended, but it was very busy summer, so the issues were still there. Thanks.
I have Director Steer and then Director McCarthy.
Great, thank you, through the chair. There has been, in terms of the recommendation on the table, I fully support, as Director Cote has pointed out, this is a much larger regional issue. In terms of the specifics of the West Coast, there has been some very focused, localized work recently moving forward, and I know through those conversations that they may be reaching out to the ACRD for some forms of support in that context. And so there's also brought up at the West Coast Committee yesterday, there are some specific initiatives that are not part of a broader based strategy, but are very specific in intent. And that'll be brought to the board's attention, I think, later on through Ms. Fong. And so I do support the recommendation on the table, and would say that there are, in conversations locally, there is support for those financial contributions to help in the bringing forward of a more comprehensive strategy for a regionally based approach on this.
Dr. McCarthy. Oh, you're muted though.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I also sit here in support of the issue on the table here. I realize, it's a broader issue, a regional issue, or Vancouver Island issue, but at the same time, we're looking at our local area down here and how it's devastating our communities, as far as the pollution that's going out there. And I realize that there was an issue, or there was a gate was put up. When we talk about First Nations, that we have overlapping issues here. When the gate did actually go up, the very next day they were camping at the what we call Bornstein Hill, which is just outside of our community right here. So what we're seeing is, whatever we're going to do, it has to solve the issue, not just move them around. It's terrible that. I feel for what's going on, but at the same time, we need to respect our communities and what we're doing out here and stuff like that. Our government, fully, stand behind this issue that's at the table, and to keep us informed as to what's going on, or get us at that table when we get there, because these issues do concern us very, very strongly. Because we had an executive meeting a couple of days ago, and this issue hit the table. And as I'm speaking now, like I said, when you do put up those barriers, they like all the directors ever talk about, they just move somewhere else. It doesn't resolve the issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a conversation that we need to have alongside trying to stop people from doing it, is just how to mitigate the impacts first. And then move into something where we create a framework for actually stopping these things. So I think that impact matters more at the moment. And then we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that juggling. Dr. McNabb, please go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's exactly kind of my point, is that if we don't do it on a more a broader regional base, that we're just going to move people. The efforts that they make in Nanaimo Regional District or Comox Regional District, could displace people into our regional district, and rather than having a plan on how we're going to facilitate, dry camping somewhere, then I think that's what we really need to come to is to have old logging dryland sorts available, monitored, some kind of process that people can go and do this dry camping, and that there'll be some oversight, and that we can maybe keep them out of parking alongside the roads and the lakes and everything else. So it's not going to get better till we find a resolution to it, really. So anyhow, I would make the motion that we, Albany-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors support in principle engaging with Whistler Center for Sustainability to develop a robust and longer term strategy for the disbursement camping issues on the West Coast, to a maximum of $25,000, and direct staff to reach out to other regional stakeholders for financial support and to the project, and report to the Board of Directors on September 22nd meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Cote. Any further comments? Dr. Steer, go ahead.
Yes, I was just, as it has been brought up by many of the members, within the context of the recommend motion here, it does specifically say the West Coast. Is that our intent, or are we looking at a broader scope for this, or are we comfortable with just the West Coast in there?
So I think I'll go with Director, because this is Director Cote's point, and then we'll go to Director Roberts. Go ahead, Director
Thank you. Thank you. That's why I had my hand raised. It is to second it, but also with the amendment that it's the regional district.
Albany-Clayoquot. ACRD.
ACRD.
The whole
Let's
thing.
change it to that.
Okay. Director Roberts?
No, I was going to comment on the same thing. Although the whole island is the West Coast of Canada and British Columbia, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, in our context, it's means a specific thing, though. Yeah. Okay, that makes me feel better, and I think that provides enough direction for the staff to come back with something good. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item D, which is the new federal statutory holiday. I think this one's.
Mr. Chair, did you want me to speak to this?
If you would, yes.
Great. Okay. So the federal government recently legislated September 30th as a new federal statutory holiday, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And this new statutory holiday responds to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action, number 80, which called on the federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish the holiday and to commemorate the history and legacy of residential schools and honor the survivors, their families, and communities. The provincial government has declared September 30th as a day of commemoration of the history and ongoing trauma caused by residential schools, but they have not legislated it as a statutory holiday. But they are looking at it for the future. Regional district staff are recommending that the board of directors issue a press release recognizing September 30th and to commemorate the history and legacy of the residential schools and honor the survivors and their families and communities. And further, we're recommending in future years, we will work with other First Nations in the region and community leaders, exploring ways to respectfully mark this important day annually. Regional district services will be closed, the majority of them on September 30th, and staff will be working on developing some messaging for the public on potential impacts to services we provide. And if there's any questions, I'm pleased to answer them.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions? Thank you. Director McCarthy and then Director Roberts. Oh, sorry, you're muted again. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you to the chair. I'm definitely in support of this motion. And just a quick, what I'm thinking is, we talk about survivors, and I am one. I would just, to me, something like this, it makes me feel like I'm not standing alone. And over the years, that's how it's been felt. And today, I feel like I'm not standing alone, and that gives me the strength to continue. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And who did I have next? Sorry. Oh, Director Bodnar, please go ahead.
Thank you. And I think that it's really important that the part of the motion is to explore ways to respectfully mark the Truth and Reconciliation Day in the region, that it's not just a holiday. I mean, there should be something that something there that that really marks that day, that people just don't think of it, oh, it's just another holiday.
I think that's an important thing to note. And what that does as well is that it does create space for those conversations in a real way to happen. And then we won't see what happened with July 1st again, right? This is something where we can have some time and space to actually really think about this and get into it in a good way. And I actually really like the fact that UBCM is so close to this date as well, that this is something that we can all talk about and then go back to our communities and really have good conversations about that. Yeah. Are there any further comments? Okay. I didn't write down who seconded it, but I think we're okay. Dr. Cote, did you have a comment?
I do. Thank you. Just recognizing also that September 30th is Orange Shirt Day.
Yeah. Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item E, which is adoption of a bylaw in regards to the Beaver Creek Fire Protection Service Area. It's an amendment.
I can briefly speak to that one, Mr. Chair. So the regional district received a petition from two property owners within Beaufort, 8150 and 8200 Cameron Road, requesting that their properties be included within the Beaver Creek Fire Protection Service Area. So staff drafted an amendment to the establishing bylaw for that service and brought it forward for consideration by the board on July 28th to include these properties, and the board gave 3 readings to that bylaw. Prior to adoption, the bylaw needs 2/3 consent of the participants of the service area, the directors, to consent to the adoption. So we have received that consent from all 3 areas, Beaver Creek, Cherry Creek, and Beaufort, and staff are recommending that the board consider adopting the amending bylaw, and these 2 properties will be part of the service area.
Thank you for that. Are there any comments? Director McNabb, I note you're unmuted, so did you want to?
I would move that the Albany Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw E1052-5, cited as Beaver Creek Fire Protection Service Area Amendment 2021.
Thank you. And seconded by Director Shannon. Any further comments? No? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item F, which is water rates and regulation bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies to the board. We are doing a error correction on a bylaw which requires 3 readings, so lots of resolutions. This is simply an error. When we came to the committee meeting before, we were just looking to update the rates. And it looks like when we were doing the update to the bylaw, we had used a previous version that wasn't accurate. And so some changes just were made to the amount of water, which was not supposed to change. It was supposed to stay at 90, as well as the amount that we charge for a bill out rate for staff. So we're just actually making corrections to what the original rates were that got changed inadvertently when we just wanted to update the rate. So again, my greatest apologies, and we will definitely be proofreading this better in the future to save your time.
Okay, I would note that we have first through third readings and adoption. So if we wanted to get to it, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw number F1142-2 Beaver Creek Water Local Service Area Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw F1148-2 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed?
Move second. I'd move second reading.
Thank you, Dr. McNabb. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed?
I'd move third reading.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McNabb. Seconded by. Thank you, Dr. Beckett. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried.
And I would move adoption of bylaw F1148-2.
Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. And comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item G, which is Regional District Fire Department's review. Is that Charlie or is that a director?
Would be me.
All righty. Welcome, Charlie. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, we would like to recommend that the Board of Directors Commission, Dave Mitchell and Associates, conduct a review of the 3 ACRD volunteer fire departments, Banfield, Beaver Creek, and Sprout Lake for a cost of $31,000.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
Sorry about that. I love Siri. This comes out of where this comes from is it's been 2010 was the last time we reviewed our departments. There have been a multitude of changes to the legislation and criteria for the fire departments. And it's been, the chiefs are under ongoing and increasing stress to maintain their departments in their way. And we're looking to get this review done to give us some guidance for the future. And I'm happy to answer questions.
I had one right off the bat. The name Dave Mitchell rings a bell. The background there, do you know?
We just used Dave Mitchell for the report for the Sprout Lake Hall, and we used Dave Mitchell also in 2010 for the report that was done then.
Yeah, that was before my time, but okay, I think I might remember it from there then. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, any further comments? Director Cote, please go ahead. And
I'll
then
make
Dr.
the
Roberts.
motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. McNabb. And comment, Dr. Roberts, please go ahead.
So through the chair to Mr. Sterrett. So Dave Mitchell and Associates have been used by other communities as well. And in particular through the RDN to Arrington Fire Department, which was not well received. They had some negative comments, and I believe that Dave Mitchell and Associates were actually dropped at the end. So if you're satisfied with them, fair game. But just a comment to let you know that there have been some issues with them over the past. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm aware that he's done some other reviews around the region and for other regional districts. We've had a really good working relationship with Dave Mitchell and his associates and haven't had any problems to this point.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, thanks, Charlie. I think this brings us to a letter of support for ENEO recycling pilot. So that might be Jenny. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the board may be aware, we have a local company, social enterprise called INEO Employment Services that had started up a mattress recycling facility, and we've worked with them to support them in that process. It's over the years, we've worked out all of the kinks, and it's actually worked out quite well. We have an innovative diversion program in place in Port Alberni. They do receive mattresses from other regional districts, but primarily they do service us, and it's been excellent and cutting edge, and other regional districts are looking to find other ways to do this. One of the unique situations is that the reason the mattress recycling facility was started was really to create employment, not necessarily to recycle mattresses. But from our perspective, because our focus is solid waste, we get to receive all of the benefits of that. The same company has been approached by, I think it's Schnitzer Steel, anyhow, one of the metal recycling companies, because they've been getting a lot of requests on RVs. So with illegal camping, with RVs being very popular, believe it or not, there's also a flux of derelict RVs that have to be taken care of. And so they are looking to basically take all of these factors and do what they've done for the mattress recycling, which is to start a pilot project to strip RVs down into all their component parts and then send them off for recycling. This provides a huge benefit to us because we also receive RVs at the landfill, and we have a very high rate, which discourages them from being landfilled unless they've been fully recycled. So we're very happy about this pilot project, and hopefully it has some legs. We are recommending that the board support sending a letter of support so that they can look for some grant funding to get that pilot project off the ground.
Okay, Director Roberts, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jenny. I totally support that initiative. Instead of having RVs dumped, and they are on the West Coast on some of the back roads and so on and so forth, creates a problem. Although community groups on the West Coast do clean up, and I've seen parts of RVs being hauled away and so on and so forth. This is a much needed service that I would support, that the ACRD Board of Directors provide a letter of support for INEO Employment Services and INEO grant applications to fund a pilot program to recycle recreational vehicles, RVs, within the Alberni Valley. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director McNabb. And comments, I saw Director Cote, then Director McNabb.
Thank you. Do we have a location for this new enterprise?
No, I don't think they're that far down the planning stages, or if they are, I'm not aware of it. Right now, they have relocated the mattress recycling to a facility with the Port Authority, actually not too far away from the CRD office, but down at the waterfront. So I'm not sure what the RV recycling location will be.
Sorry, just a follow-up. So RVs could be motorized, like motorhomes, whatnot. And I'm wondering why they're not being sent to the vehicle recycle.
That's a good question. We have inquiries come in, and so we've called the local vehicle recycling facilities ourselves. They will recycle them. It seems to be quite a high charge. So I think perhaps this, and I'm not sure if they're more in the business of vehicle recycling, which is a little bit different because it's mostly metal versus an RV is much more of a blend of material. I know that when you're doing vehicle recycling, you end up with a lot of fluff because it's kind of a different beast a little bit. Whereas an RV is almost like a cross between a house and a vehicle. And it has a lot more different component parts that need to be stripped out.
One more, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have concerns about coolant, oils, petrol. There was a site property in Sprout Lake that was doing recycling of vehicles, and it's a very big environmental problem. So I would really want to see a plan before I start approving this as to how they're going to contain all of that. Thank you.
Okay. Paula, did you have anything to add?
No, I think Jenny covered it all off. Yeah, that's about all I have.
Okay, thanks. Director McNabb, please go ahead.
So the reason that these vehicles can't go through the normal recycling stream like an auto wreckers is because they A, don't fit in any compactor that exists, and B, because a lot of the materials are not recyclable within that stream. So they really do need to be specially treated. And all of these recycling facilities are monitored by the Ministry of Environment. In fact, last week I was up at Sherwood's Auto Wrecking, and the ministry was actually there monitoring, doing a survey on how the recycling was happening. The fluids have to come out of these things before they're, even the one in Nanaimo, the major one in Nanaimo with the crusher, all the fluids have to be removed, and any explosive material, airbag systems or things like that have to come out. So it's, I mean, it's specialized. It's a needed facility, particularly so that they don't end up on 4th Avenue. I think that, you know, that type of recycling isn't what we want to see in the community, and they need to be positively done. And there is a market for the materials that come out of these things. So, you know, I see the cost benefit in doing it is just having somebody do it. So I would move, I think, did the motion get moved? It already got moved. Okay, so I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, great. All those in favor then? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item I, which is the final one in section 8. It's renaming the, oh, sorry, Alberni Valley Waste Management Center upgrades and renaming. So, go ahead.
Me or Jenny? Oh,
Director
so before we get into this, I mean, I can see the rationale for updating the name of the Alberni landfill, but I'm really concerned that we haven't bounced this off to Shat and Hepatchisset. There may be other opportunities for a name that has more value.
Through the chair, excellent point. This is one that we've discussed extensively. So naming of places and facilities is something that, you know, it's an opportunity to do so much. The situation here, because we feel that is an important opportunity. We would like to engage. We'd like to discuss this with our community partners and come up with a great name. However, there's really two components to the name of the landfill. So one of them is functional, and regardless of, and that's really just very operational. We need a name that says what this facility actually does. And it's not necessarily something we want to per se consult with the community about. We just need something that can explicitly tell you where and what this facility does. But then there's also another component of the name, which is it has a lot more flexibility, right? So it could be geographical or commemorative, or it can have a lot of different components to that. Right now, the word that sort of represents something that has a lot of, we could be creative about, which is the word Alberni Valley. So right now, we just use it as a geographical location placeholder. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to look at changing that, to see what does that mean? What do we want this to say? The landfill word, which is more of a functional name, is something that really just we want to change because of the change in the function of the facility. So what we're looking to do today is just change the second part of the name from landfill to waste management center, to basically represent that we're not landfilling anymore. We are recycling, we are diverting, we are composting, we are doing so many things beyond just putting garbage in the ground. And it's been that way for quite a while. But now as we roll out the organics diversion, we really need to, I think, change the attitude of the community. And that's sort of an important step in why we would like to do that and do this now. To consult and talk about doing a meaningful name selection for the Alberni Valley was landfill will be waste management center, I think it's going to take a lot more time. We do have a working group with the SSHOT and that we've been working on, and I think that that's come up a little bit, and really it would be nice to have time to do a proper engagement and really think about what that name is. We'd like to go through that process, but we also would like to right now just change the functional name to Waste Management Center and then look at doing the Alberni Valley change in the future.
Okay, so it's like the functional designation is treated separately than like the place name kind of idea. That's a good way of explaining what's going on in a lot of places around BC too. So that's appreciated. Are there any comments, questions, or motions? Oh, there we go. Director Shannon, please go ahead.
Thank you. I think my only comment for this, I completely see the rationale for wanting to do this. My concern is that it's quite the mouthful. I mean, just coming from where are you going? We're going to the landfill. Like generally you don't even say. So I'm sure this has been thought out, but that was just kind of my initial, like, that's a long one. Is there any way to shorten it? Thanks.
I think I'll weigh in on this and say that when we became a self-governing First Nation, our official designation is Huu-ay-aht First Nations. We have a large population in our community that just still says the band, and they probably won't change. And as often as I hear landfill, I most often hear the dump, and that's probably not going to change in the kind of colloquial parlance. So I think what we choose to designate these things in our reports for and how we talk about it is going to matter for now into the future. So I think it's still worth doing because we still call ourselves the Huu-ay-aht First Nations. And even though folks keep telling me, you know what the band should do, it's kind of the same thing. And we're just going to have a lot of folks who just still call it the dump or the landfill, and that's fine. But I think calling it the Waste Management Center is more descriptive because of all the stuff that's already happening, but will be happening soon. And on an education front, I think this really matters on that side too, because how it's introduced to kids and how they think about waste management is going to be markedly different than how I was taught. And for us, it was all recycling all the time. Now we're getting into things like dealing with biologics and that sort of thing. So I think it's worth it. That being said, I think I totally get what you're saying. Director McNabb, please go ahead.
So, I mean, I am really concerned about not consulting with particularly SSHOT on this, because we have agreed to consult with them on any changes that we're doing there. And while I don't think they're going to be particularly, if the rationale is explained to them as it's just been explained, I don't think that they're going to be particularly upset or opposed to that, but they just really need to be kept in the loop and on a much tighter basis than we have in the past. And I think this would reflect that.
I don't see this as being particularly critical or urgent. Is there a difference between the upgrade portion of the report, or is it mostly just about the designation and the naming, Jenny?
Yeah, well, we were looking to do a grand opening and to have the signage up reflecting the new name for September 1st. And again, mostly using it as a tool, as one of the pieces as we try to basically roll out organics and really get people on board. Grand opening, as fun as it is to celebrate the upgrades, a lot of it is really just another way to remind people that we have organics diversion and the curbside program is coming. We've made all these changes at the landfill. So it's sort of part of an overall communication strategy. And this was sort of a strategically timed event. I will say that, we did do a tour. Apollo and I did a tour with Ken Watts just a week ago of the landfill. And we have had communications with them about this. And we were going to, before we did any press releases or anything, assuming that this gets support by the board, we had to wait and see if that happened, that we would be informing them before it went out publicly as well, just in a formal way. So I really appreciate the board's concern about this and wanting to be appreciative and respectful of our neighbors. And I hope that we've been trying to be in line with that.
Okay, Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. I am supporting what Director McNabb said. I really think that we should consult with TSHAT before we start making any changes at all with the Alberni Valley landfill. So didn't quite get the answer. Are we able to defer this until the next meeting?
Well, we could, or could we, another consideration is perhaps we could amend the resolution to add in a clause that requires consultation with the shot. Would that be, would that cover off the concerns as well so that the name change doesn't occur prior to?
I think an if then would be a good idea. Director Minions?
Thank you. Appreciate the conversation on this so far. I think especially given the location of the landfill, and if we are looking to rename, I would rather, if we are going to engage with Sashot on this, that we don't pass a motion basically saying we're renaming it and then go and consult. I would be more comfortable with us reaching out first. I could see Sashot maybe not caring about the name. Maybe they say this is not somewhere where, a landfill is not somewhere where we want to put a traditional name. It's not the right place, and it's has been a sore subject in the past as well. So it might not be somewhere where they're interested, but I think we should reach out first, certainly before passing a motion to move forward. And I think as well that if it is somewhere where they want to be engaged with the name, I think there's no harm in having a traditional name. People are still going to know where the landfill is. And I don't think having it be called Alberni Valley really offers anything to people really knowing where it is. But I really like the concept of calling it the Waste Management Center. I think it's just an opportunity for us to reach out to Sashot before we make a decision and see if they have an interest here or not. And I don't see any harm in waiting a couple weeks to come back to this. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. McNabb or Dr. Cote, do you want to just move to defer this to the next meeting then? Dr. McNabb?
I'd move to defer this to the next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. And seconded by Dr. Cote. All right. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay. Motion carried. All righty. That brings us to planning matters. I'm going to just take a straw poll here. We're 10 minutes to 3, and we have more than a few items for planning matters. Do we want to take a quick break until 3 o'clock and then come back? Just bio break and all that sort of thing? Okay, so let's do that. I'll see you all back at 3 o'clock. Yeah, it looks like they're still here. All right, we're in good shape then.
John, I just want to mention, sometimes my screen is freezing up, so it looks like I'm going in and out. So I'm doing the best I can to deal with it.
Yep, that's fair. I think we're okay. Okay, so that was 3 o'clock. Let's get right back into it. So we're into section 9, specifically 9.1, and item A is an item for Sprout Lake. Looks like Catherine Drive. So Alex, if you wanted to take us through it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a development variance application for a property on Catherine Drive. As you note, in the Sprout Lake area, the application is to reduce the watercourse setback from 100 feet to 50 feet for future development within the proposed subdivision. The setback reduction is supported by an assessment that the applicants have submitted from a professional biologist. The board considered this application in July and resolved to proceed with the neighbor notification process, which was completed on August 4th. No correspondence has been received from the public, and staff are recommending that the board issue the development variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Cote, did you want to take this one?
Thank you. I would move that the Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVD 20012.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodnar. Any comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Brings us to item B, which is a Beaver Creek item.
Okay, this next application is for a two-lot subdivision on the property located at 6765 Beaver Creek Road. The Local Government Act requires 10% of the perimeter of any new lot is road frontage where the lot fronts onto a public road. And the Regional District Board has the authority to waive this requirement. The proposed two-lot subdivision complies with the minimum lot size and the minimum lot width requirements of the RA2 zoning, and is supported by the policies of the Beaver Creek Official Community Plan. As it stands right now, proposed lot 1 would have about 7.3% of road frontage. So the Beaver Creek Advisory Planning Commission reviewed this application and supported it at their last meeting, and staff are recommending that the board proceed with waiving the parcel frontage requirements for proposed lot 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McNabb, go ahead.
I move that the Board of Directors waive the 10% road frontage requirement for proposed lot 1 as per subdivision plan 6765 and 6755 Beaver Creek Road.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cote. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item C, which is Beaver Creek as well.
Okay, the next item we have for you is an application for a two-lot subdivision of a newly created vacant property located at the corner of Cameron Road and Wellham Road in the Beaver Creek area. The property owners have applied to subdivide a lot that was created by subdivision in September 2020, which triggers the parkland requirements of the Local Government Act, where parkland or cash in lieu is required for the subdivision of a lot that was itself created by subdivision within the last 5 years. The act allows for up to 5% of the appraised market value of the property as cash in lieu. There's a bit of history on this one. The applicants had originally rezoned the property in 2019 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision. After initially proceeding with the 3-lot subdivision, the property owners amended their application to 2 lots in response to some of the road building requirements for the additional lot. So after the 2-lot subdivision was approved in September 2020, the applicants then came back to the Ministry of Transportation and made the decision to apply again to re-subdivide that lot, thereby triggering our parkland requirements. I do note that the subdivision complies with the requirements of the zoning bylaw and the Beaver Creek OCP, and highlight the fact that had the subdivision proceeded in the first place as a 3-lot subdivision as originally proposed, there would be no parkland or no cash in lieu of parkland requirements at that time. The only reason we're considering it now is that it is the result of the re-subdivision of the lot within 5 years. So the Beaver Creek Advisory Planning Commission considered this application at their last meeting on the 16th, where they recommended that the board consider options for reducing or waiving the 5% cash in lieu of parkland. The board has the ability to require any amount of cash in lieu up to 5% of the appraised market value of the property, as I noted. So happy to answer any questions you have on this one. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Director McNabb.
So I'd really like to have the rest of the board kind of weigh in on this. It is a bit of an unusual situation, and it's one that likely would be precedent setting. The initial application to go into the 3 lots was changed because of the cost of the road building that would be required by the ministry along the side of this area. At the point of the 2-lot subdivision, the highways took a buffer on the Cameron Road side and for road allowance as well. I mean, I'm thinking that the options in my mind and what I'm considering is going with 2.5% value for the park contribution, in that it would have cost way more to do the 3-lot subdivision with the improvement of the road. And we're going to get situations like this in the future. If we simply waive the park contribution, we're going to be expected to do that in the future. And the applicant has the option of just hanging on for 4 more years and subdividing the second section, which they have told us that they want to subdivide that to gift, sell it to one of their children to build a house so that they have the family on the total acreage. So, it's those could be the plans, but if that is what comes out in reality is one thing, like you never know what the end result's going to be. So I'd like you to kind of voice your opinion, and whether you're in the city or in Sproat Lake or whatever. I just this one is unusual, and it really does require a little bit of input.
So your initial idea was 2.5 on one of the lots, or the whole lot, or the whole
No,
thing?
on the one lot being created. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but open mic here. Do any directors have any thoughts on this? Dr. Roberts, go ahead. And Director.
Yeah, through the chair, I support Director McNabb's comments on that, and it's a matter of setting precedent, and I agree that there should be some percentage of the appraised market value on the property, and if you're going with 2.5%, I concur with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Cote.
Thank you. It's an unusual situation right now because the board actually has the opportunity to make a change here. It sounds like staff are recommending that it's the 5%, but they don't get the actual story around the subdivision. I'm just concerned that they were trying to do things without paying what they needed to in the beginning. So was this a subdivision that they said, oh, well, we will re-subdivide down the road when we don't have to do the park dedication, or because that has happened at Sproat Lake in the past. As I recall, we did have another subdivision that happened after the fact where this came up. And I believe that they did pay the 5%, but it was quite a while ago, so it's a different situation. But so it was this subdivision was put off because of the park dedication?
I'll chime into that if I can, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So I don't think it was a matter of subdividing in multi stages to avoid any parkland requirements. Had they actually proceeded with the 3-lot subdivision that was their original intention, they wouldn't have to do any parkland requirements at all. So I think that this was as a result of the the change in the subdivision application from originally 3 lots to 2 lots was as a result of the road building requirements, or perhaps the on-site sewage requirements as well. That's something we often see, but I don't think it was necessarily, it doesn't make sense that they would do this to avoid the parkland, because this is actually triggering parkland where there wasn't before. So you're right, it is unique, and the section of the act that allows a local government to take parkland when a property is to be re-subdivided within 5 years is to stop the piecemeal development of land. So hopefully that answers your question.
Go ahead, follow up, Dr. Cote.
Thank you. Knowing that now, I would support whatever the director would be putting forward. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's important to note what the intentions were and whether or not it was a legit mistake or that sort of thing. Dr. Bodnar, you had your hand up next, and then Dr. Shannon.
Yes, I think that's important to find out. Are we just guessing that this is the reason that they've gone from 3 to 2, that because of the cost, or is it something that they really have implied? Because if this comes up again in the future, it's going to be very easy for some, if it's a gray area, that it's going to be very easy for people to be able to read into it and say, well, they didn't have to pay, so why should we? So I don't know if that's, I feel that that's important to know, that whether, you know, it's cost effective for them or whether they just want to wait.
Yeah, okay. I have Director Shannon and then Director McNabb.
Thank you. I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification here. So they were going to do 3 parcels. It wasn't going to work out with where the road was going to be because there would have been more costs for that. So then they went to 2, and now they're taking one of those 2 to divide to now get to the 3.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so are they running into those issues now with Ministry of Transportation doing this other subdivision, or is this like it's moving so the current road layout will work versus their original plan?
That's a very good question. We don't, the regional district isn't directly involved in what the road building requirements would be. So it's difficult for us to provide a clear answer on that. But I do know that, you know, as you know, this would be a new subdivision application. It is a new subdivision application, and one of the conditions that they have to meet are satisfying the parkland. Another condition that they have to meet is building the road. So whether the ministry will require them to upgrade now to the same standard that they would be upgrading the road to 3 lots initially, I unfortunately can't answer that. You know, we can seek some clarity from the Ministry of Transportation to help us guide that if the board wants us to, but that's, you know, that's not something that the regional district is directly involved in.
Okay, can I ask? Thank you.
Yeah.
So then where this new lot line is looking to be, is the layout now for these 3 lots going to look almost the same as what it would have been in the first place?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know. I feel like if they're trying to make this work, and it's, to me, it doesn't sound like it's like they're trying something. It didn't look like it was going to work. Maybe they've changed their minds and going again. So I think, as Alex said, you've kind of come into this situation because now you're doing it twice instead of once. You're into this parkland thing. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't charge the fee for the parkland because I feel like they're just trying to make this work, and it wouldn't have happened in the first place. Was my opinion on it.
Thank you. I have Director McNabb, and
So the 2 lot subdivision didn't trigger the road building aspect of it. That's why they went with the 2 lot subdivision. Apparently, what the applicant said at the APC meeting was that they had spoken to the minister, the highways, and that they had changed their position on the road, and so that they were going to so that they felt that they weren't going to have to do the road if they subdivided this lot into 2. So, but the applicant did say that the initial reason they subdivided into 2 instead of 3 was because of the cost of the road building that was required by the ministry if they went to 3. So it's you know, I'm going to move that we modify the park contribution to 2.5% of the created lot value, and I'll move that and see what happens.
thank you. Do I have seconder? Director Cote, second? Yeah? Okay. With that, then I'll open that back up to comments. Director Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you. To Director McNabb, then with discussions with the applicants, are they now, I guess, prepared to pay for a road if it has to be 3 lots versus where they were a year or 2 ago? Is that the reasoning that we're going back to 3 now?
In what I heard in the APC meeting was that the ministry wasn't going to implement the road improvement portion of it.
For 3 lots. So
because they'd done two and now they're only just doing one. Like they created two lots, well, and now they're just creating another lot, and it doesn't trigger the three lots that the ministry was originally involved with. So that's what I heard. But you know, that, as Alex says, that's really out of our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Now, I guess if the ministry wants the whole road complex built, they can maybe bring it back for rediscussion at the board. You know, who knows?
Yeah. That's kind of their decision too. For what it's worth, I think this is probably the right idea, Dr. McNabb, because there's a chance that this is an on-purpose exploit to try to get around other costs involved. That being said, you don't, in the event that it's not, and it's just somebody who just needed to change plans to make things work, like Director Shannon said, they don't want to go too far into it. But I would be interested to see if we can keep track of these kind of things and the interactions with other external organizations on how their rules may affect the decision making here. Because what I'd be concerned about is if this becomes a trend, suddenly we're getting, 15-20% more decisions that we have to make that didn't have to in the first place. So those are the kinds of, like, the administrative and kind of table time burden is the thing that I'm starting to become concerned about, but I don't have evidence to say that it is a trend or it's going to happen. But I think this creates a disincentive for that to happen, which I actually really think is a good idea. Director Cote?
Thank you. My biggest concern is just there's no map here to show what the subdivision is doing. So the Ministry of Transportation has policies and requirements for reasons. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be a problem with traffic now because it's not necessary to follow what was instructed with the 3-part parcel subdivision. Thanks.
Alex, did you want to?
Sure, I'd be happy to chime in on that. And my apologies for us not including a map that would have helped with the context. But essentially, we're dealing with a 5-acre lot, plus or minus 5-acre lot, and they're looking to subdivide that in half to create roughly 2.5-acre lots. It is a fairly, it's a reasonably rural area. I don't anticipate any traffic concerns that would arise out of this. But having said that, Welland Road, which is the east-west road off of Cameron Road, is an unpaved road, and I would imagine that that Highways was looking at upgrades to that road as a function of subdivision. They may still be requiring that, like I mentioned before, that's not something that we're directly involved with, but it's not. It's not a significant development, I don't think, in terms of the lot size, and it complies with our zoning and our OCP policies as well.
Okay. Dr. Shannon, go ahead.
thank you. To kind of piggyback on what Director Jack said, I would be curious to ask the Ministry of Transportation why it would be required if you're just going from 1 to 3 lots and you need this stuff and you were going to do 5 and 2, 2.5, but you did it once. And now you're taking one of those 5s you created to 2, 2.5, and now it might not be required. That doesn't make sense to me. So if that's kind of like a oversight on the ministry's part, I don't think that they should be penalized by paying us money because of that. Or if it's something that, I guess that's my question, is just like where it's coming out of, and maybe that's something with the Ministry of Transportation as to why, and even before maybe we even make a motion, because I would really like to know what's happening there, because of a ministry policy, now we're in this situation, like we've mentioned, and I don't want to unfairly cost somebody money in the regional district if that was never their intent. And obviously for clarification for the future.
Alex, thoughts on that interaction with the ministry? Like,
Certainly happy to go back to the ministry and ask the question if the board would like more information on that before considering a motion on how to deal with Parkland. We could defer a decision, bring this back to the next board meeting and allow you to look at it then. It is very unique in the sense that, I think you nailed it, Director Shannon, where it's, you might be subdividing in this way to get around a certain rule of subdivision, but the punishment is the Parkland dedication requirements, which are directly the regional district. And we don't have anything to do with the road building, but we have everything to do with the Parkland. So it puts us in a unique spot. And if the board chooses to do so, I'm happy to go back to the ministry and ask for some clarification on that.
Director McNabb, what
what are we dealing with timelines for this subdivision? Are they?
So this would be one of the conditions of subdivision that they need to resolve. They'll also, I don't know where they're at with each step, but they'll need to prove water and septic capability for each lot. They'll need to get the surveyors out there again, and they'll need to register everything with the land title office. So there's a number of steps that they need to complete yet. If this were to, we could have something back in September, and I don't personally feel like that would really slow up the process substantially.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing why the ministry would react this way. So, that I think I would move to, we've got a motion on the floor, but we can move to defer it till the next meeting, and then fine. And get that information and go from there. You're muted.
Yeah. Just to make it clean, let's this won't set a precedent or anything, but if we just vote the motion down and then put a new motion on the floor, then we're not bringing the old motion forward for any reason. So so just all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Okay, then the new motion is to bring this decision.
I move to defer this to the next board meeting and have staff contact the Ministry of Highways to get the logistics of why this happened.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Shannon. Okay. Now, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Great.
Everybody, appreciate it.
Okay, that brings us to the next item, which is also Beaver Creek. That's item D.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. The next application we have before you is sorry, let me just find the right one here. A zoning amendment bylaw to rezone the property at 6640 Beaver Creek Road from A1 to RA3 in order to facilitate a 2-lot subdivision. This bylaw was given second and third readings on July 28th after a public hearing was held on July 12th. Now, all of the conditions of rezoning have been satisfied, and staff recommend that the board adopt the bylaw. Thank you.
I move that bylaw P 1425 Regional District of Albany Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodnar. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to another Beaver Creek. This is Drinkwater Road.
Yes,
item E.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next application is an OCP amendment and zoning amendment bylaw to rezone a portion of the property at 6210 Drinkwater Road in order to facilitate a 3-lot subdivision for this one. Bylaws P1426 and P1427 received second and third readings on July 28th after a public hearing on this application, which was held on July 13th. With this one as well, all conditions of rezoning have now been satisfied, and staff recommend that the board adopt the bylaws. Thank you.
I would move that bylaw P 1426 Beaver Creek Official Community Plan Amendment bylaw be adopted. Can I do them both at the same time? They're two separate.
Let's keep them separate.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Shannon. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
I would move that bylaw P1427 Regional District of Alberni Claycott Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Thank you. And seconded by Dr. Shannon. Comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, great. I did have a question that's related to this. Given that it seems as though that these zoning bylaws are more stringent in regards to the space of time between third reading and adoption, is that just the way it is in regards to other bylaw amendments?
It is, yeah. So it's specifically laid out in the Local Government Act that you can't give third reading and adoption at the same meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Next item is also Beaver Creek. It's a rezoning application, item F. Please go ahead.
Okay, one more rezoning application for Beaver Creek. This one is for property at 6420 Lamarck Road, where the applicants are rezoning or applying to rezone from A1 to RA3 with the intention to accommodate a 2-lot subdivision. The Beaver Creek APC met and considered this application on 16th and concurred with the staff recommendation and supported the application. Staff recommend that the board proceed with first reading of the bylaw at this time and delegate a public hearing to be held. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are 3 motions here.
So I move that bylaw P1428, the Regional District of Alberni Claycott Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read for the first time.
Do we have a second? All right, thank you, Director Bodnar. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
I would move that the public hearing for the bylaw P1428 be delegated to Director for Electoral Area E, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district.
You do have a seconder. Thank you, Director Cote. Okay, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
I move that the Board of Directors confirm the adoption of bylaw P1428 is subject to confirmation of registered on-site wastewater practitioner that the property is capable of accommodating on-site sewage disposal to a minimum of 0.6 acre lot size, and B, meeting technical referral agency requirements.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Yep, thank you, Director Beckett. Okay, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. Thank you, Alex. That brings us to item 10, and 10.1 is staff reports. Is there anything that anyone, including staff, would like to pull out? Okay, seeing none. We may need to come back to or go back to having Heather come in and give an update on COVID next time. So let's hope we don't, but just kind of pushing that one forward later. Okay, so with that, could we have a motion to receive the staff reports, please? Thank you, Director Beckett. Oh, everything moved. Seconded by Director McNabb. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, that brings us to committee reports. It's a verbal report from Director Roberts regarding the West Coast Committee meeting. Please go ahead.
Oh. Thank you for that. The meeting covered quite a bit of territory. In particular, one of the items that was brought up was the request by Salmon Beach to be removed from the transit levy that is being put forward. The comments by those that objected to it were received, and it was voted on and passed with my refusal to, if you will, not actually refusal, but I was against removing it. There was a lot of concern by the constituents. And in fact, there was a 250 letter or petition that said that they wanted to see it removed. Unfortunately, the process has gone quite a ways. I believe that there will be probably at the September 8th meeting, a delegation from Salmon Beach Committee or people from there that would like to voice their opinion with regards to this transit levy. I know staff's position on this, and I don't know that all other areas that were involved with denying this understood the rationale behind it. And I briefly talked about it at that meeting and voiced my concerns as a member of that community that there is absolutely no way that the community of Salmon Beach, who has gone along with a lot of other issues that don't directly involve them, that have supported it. And I understand from Terry Fong that there was an issue in the past with regards to the airport levy that the community would be paying for as well. I wasn't aware of that, but the issue that Salmon Beach is a water access only community, which again, the Ministry of Transport lays their cards on the line and says, well, we can't do anything for the internal roads, which are ministry roads, to support that community at all. I've turned it over to the regional district, and the regional district, through our parcel tax, the community pays for all road maintenance in and out of that. The community also pays for road upgrades from the Mikoa turnoff to Salmon Beach, which is 6 kilometers, which they get graded 3 times a year, as does the Tocourt Bay Road. So there's a lot of issues there that the community is dealing with, and I support them in those issues. At any rate, just to let you know that it was defeated. So we'll deal with it in future, however it comes up. And that's it. That basically is the rest of the report. There was some comment with regards to the back road issue and illegal camping and so on and so forth. And we're looking forward to hearing more about that in the future with and through Whistler Group and the committee that was involved in it. Other than that, there's not too much else to report on. Thank you.
Okay, so during his report, Director Roberts had noted that it's his understanding that the Salmon Beach petitioners would be coming in to have a to present to the board. That was my idea after a conversation with him. It seems as though Director Roberts has represented his constituencies to a point, even to the point where he doesn't necessarily agree. But given that it's a petition, given that there's public pressure, I think this is probably the way to do it. Not looking to change any of the outcomes myself, because I happen to agree with how it is already, but that shouldn't stop citizens from being able to, have their say. So we'll do that. That being said, I'm wondering if there are any comments or questions for the report, or if we have a motion that we'd be willing to receive the report. Thank you, Director McNabb. Go ahead.
I move to receive the report.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director McCarthy. Do we have any other comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, that brings us into member reports, starting 911.
No report, meeting next month.
Okay, Regional Library.
No report, meeting on Saturday. Friday? Friday.
Yeah, it sounds right. It's the same time as the ISD. Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce.
No report, meeting coming up.
Okay, Air Quality Council.
No report. We didn't meet this summer. We're meeting in September.
Okay. West Coast Aquatic. For some reason, we still have Josie Osborne there.
We had a Ms. Lem presented to the West Coast Committee yesterday, very similar to the presentation she gave to the board. So nothing new to report.
Okay. AVICC.
No report this time.
All righty. Beaver Creek Water Advisory.
No report.
Okay, and you might as well stay on. West Island Woodlands Advisory.
No report, no meeting.
Yeah. Agricultural Development Committee, Dr. Shannon and Laura Cote.
Thank you. We had a meeting on August 17th. The main things that came out of the meeting were continued issues with lack of processing on the island. We actually had a presentation from a processor that is kind of doing it out of the back of his vehicle, and he can process under farms Class D licenses. But he was commenting how kind of the irony, because he came from the UK last year and he's got like 20 years experience, that as the actual processor, he doesn't need a lot of requirements here in BC, but it's the farm that has it. And he was quite shocked, and then shocked how difficult it is for the farms to get just all the red tapes that the farms get to, and the not just in the ACRD, but the Gulf Islands, and just the lack of facilities for producers right now. And we talked about, there's a couple of grants coming in that the ag support workers have been doing a great job on. And we also talked about farm insurance issues again. It's kind of the same things that we've been talking about the last few months. Thanks.
Okay, and for other reports that's kind of related to that, the agricultural worker, I can't remember her name and I feel bad about that right now, at a meeting with members of the Monos community, so the First Nations members here on the board, in regards to the engagement that we might see between our nations and agricultural development and food and so on and so forth. And I think I talked the most there, so I figured I'd give a quick report on what was going on. And yes, thank you, Heather and Heather Shope. And I was quite interested in a lot of conversations where there's overlap between First Nations kind of traditional food gathering, which is kind of parallel to what was going on with agriculture in the region, as well as fishing and that sort of thing. And we all made note that the province has made a change to their agricultural ministry to include fishing and fish specifically because of the interface between the coast and the rest of the food systems involved. I think it was very much an initial conversation, but we were looking for time and space to have a wider conversation, but in regards to food and agriculture and all those sorts of things. Kind of bilaterally between what's going on with the region and what nations might be willing or interested in having conversations about. So I think that's a slow burn, but I think it's something that I wouldn't mind keeping rolling. And I think there is enough interest at the other nations to at least bring this up at their councils in the future. Maybe start something rolling in the new fiscal or something like that. Did Kristen, did you have anything that I missed? Did I miss anything? I didn't take very good notes when I was there. So
just that they will be doing community meetings throughout the next while. I haven't heard when Tokwats is yet, but yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll just call that my report. Dr. Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I believe those conversations are coming out of, or that's helped by one of the grants that they were able to successfully get through the ag development. And that's where part of this is that they've made this, been able to get that started. Thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly what I missed. So thank you that. All right. I think that's it for my addendum there. Could we have a motion to receive the reports, please? Thank you, everyone. Dr. McNabb and Dr. Cote. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, we don't have any unfinished business. We don't have any late business. I'm wondering, Wendy, if we have any responses or questions.
No, Mr. Chair, I do not have any input from the public respecting the meeting today.
Okay, with that in mind, then that brings us to item 14, which is to recess for the Regional Hospital District meeting. Could I have a motion to do so, please? Thank you, Director Roberts, seconded by Director Paulson. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, thank you.
Got everything up and ready and moved my iPads and it disappeared. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order and recognize that we are in the traditional territories of the Chat and Hepatchis First Nations, and that we are scattered all over the countryside. So we have to consider all those nations that we are sharing territories with, and appreciate that. Thank you. And ask for an approval of the agenda. Director Cole, Director Steer, any addition to the agenda? No. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes of July 28th, 2021. So Dr. Steer and Director Beckett. And anything errors and omissions in that? That speed typing got it all in. All in favor? Carried. And we have a letter from City of Langley with regards to improvement to pre-hospital care system. So motion to receive for information. Or it's Dr. Steer and who's second there? Director Cole. Any comments on this? No. All in favor? Carried. We're rolling right along here. So now we have reports. Banfield Health Center.
No report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Alberni Clayoquot Continuing Care Society. We don't have a report. We don't have a meeting until the end of next month. West Coast Native Health Care Society. Director Cote.
Thank you. Construction has begun on their new 40-unit housing project.
Awesome. And Tofino General Hospital.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. Yeah, I just had a conversation with the site. We have a new site director, Chris Sibaris, who took over from Hannah, and she's, as you can imagine, many balls in the air right now, dealing with the issues at the Tofino General Hospital. The one, many of the same issues still as every report. The one interesting addition was that we had received funding for a sobering and assessment facility, which is a significant amount of funding. One of our big issues, of course, is that we don't have a facility to house that in. The Tofino General Hospital is a critical lack of space, which we've discussed many times. In those conversations with Chris, we were trying to identify some potential areas within the community that might be appropriate to do that. Everything from private residences that may be willing to engage in that conversation. The one property that did tweak our interest was a collaboratively managed property between the Tloquet First Nation and the District of Tofino, Nukchucks or Monk's Point. And interestingly enough, in that research, there's an ACRD restrictive covenant on that. And I was going to speak to our ACRD, Mr. Erg, about that. But in the interim, we are looking at that facility, at potential facility. This has been identified a long time ago, and we've been working towards this funding. And it is wonderful that we've got the funding, but without a place to, my fear is that this may go awry without that facility there. So at some point, I might reach out to the ACRD to understand what those restrictive covenants are, and I'll be reaching out to the Tloquet First Nation in conversations around the Nukchucks property at Monk's Point, and I've already reached out to the District of Tofino on that. That's all I have to report for Tofino General Hospital. And maybe Director Cole might have something to add as well, I believe.
Director Cole?
Only to add that we have been, things are fairly busy here on the West Coast with the new staffing model that services Tofino General Hospital, and that we are just currently working through some of the staffing model to accommodate transfers out of Tofino General, et cetera. So more to come on that in the near future as Tofino Station does go full-time in November. So that was, I don't know if we've spoke since Adrian Dix made that announcement. Tofino was one of those stations. So that's the news on the West Coast.
Albany Clayoquot Health Network. See how I just managed to slip that in there, Penny?
Yeah, you didn't miss me this time. So there was a couple of us from the Health Network that met with Sharon Todd, Division of Family Practice. Doesn't say, oh, program manager. So it was a well-focused meeting, and we've invited Sharon Todd to come to the board to present with her manager, and quite interesting. We're actually have our Division of Family Practice now, so we're not just a chapter. So look forward to that meeting. And our regular meetings start next month, September, 3rd Wednesday of the month. And anybody is welcome to attend if you want to. Thank you.
And the West Coast General Hospital, I've been trying to get information like firsthand on this, but if you've driven by, oops, Cal.
Sorry, John, I just was looking back the comments about Tofino General. Sorry. I just want to know if there's an update from Rochelle with regards to the Tofino or the Ucluelet proposition for a medical facility out there.
Thank you, Cal. Sorry, that probably could have been part of my update. Currently, we are have run into a couple of glitches with negotiations on property that we were considering as being that primary location. So not much more to report on it other than we're still working on the finite details.
And West Coast General Hospital, I've been reaching out to Michael Lowe, who has been our information person for the last year or so, and haven't had any communication from him back with regards to where we're at with the West Coast General Hospital emergency ward renovation. But there is a ATCO trailer on the helicopter pad. I don't think it has a rotor on the top of it, so it probably isn't a helicopter. And so it looks like they're going to be starting work, and all of our transfers are now taking place from the Alberni Valley Airport, which I mean, it's land-based, and I'm not quite sure why they're not using two of the other helicopter pads that are available in the community, but that's not what's happening. So it looks like they should be hammering and banging and carrying it on there pretty quickly. Yes, Director Cole.
Sorry, I just will add just a teeny bit of information about transfers out are one thing, but to keep in mind that incidents that happen in the field, that if we can and it's available, possibly have aircraft come in before hospital administration, those kinds of emergent transfers, if that transportation is available, will bypass West Coast General and go from, say, a school field or a space on the highway directly to either the Jubilee or the General in Victoria or beyond if need be. So that is still part of moving sick people around, that it does happen elsewhere in the valley.
Thank you. Other reports? No other reports? Alrighty then. A motion to receive the reports A to G. Director Shannon, Director Steer, any comments? All in favor? Carried in a big way. No unfinished business, no late business. Question period. Anybody got any questions? Have we got any questionnaires? No?
No, Mr. Chair, no questions, comments from the public respecting the meeting.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Director Roberts, Director Paulson, all in favor? Carried. That's it. On to the next thing.
All right, that brings us to reconvening at 3:51. And that will bring us into the in-camera portion of the meeting. So I will read out the reasons why we're going in camera for the record, and then we'll do so. So the first item here is that it's a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter under sections 91F, law enforcement, if the board considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. 2, 91J, information that is prohibited, or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the FOIPA. And sub that, you have 21(1)AI or A2 of FOIPA that would reveal commercial, financial, labor relations, scientific, or technical information about a third party. And then finally, number 4, 91C, which are labor relations or other employee relations. And that's the reason why we'd be going in camera. Could I get a motion to do so, please? All right, thank you, Director Shannon, seconded by Director Beckett. All those in favor? Motion